Hi everyone, my name is Siamak and this is my geosynthetics podcast. In this episode, I have a special guest from all the way from South Africa, Jabulile and Msiza. Welcome to my podcast.
Thanks, Siamak. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you here. So we've been talking about a couple of different topics, and this is going to be a very interesting episode, I guess, for our audience. But as a tradition of my podcast, let's start with your career. When did you start? Where did you start? And how did you end up in geosynthetics?
Yeah, so a bit of an interesting story in that I started studying civil engineering at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. And I had a bursary at that stage with the council of the city I was studying at. And I did a VAC work stint,
Yeah.
and they didn't put me in an engineering department. And that one particular year, immediately after VAC work, I bumped into my geotechnical lecturer, and he asked me how was VAC work.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's terrible. I just did filing the whole time. And he was just so disappointed. And he got me in touch with an engineering firm who then took over my bursary, gave me a new bursary. And from then, I started being exposed to waste engineering and geosynthetics. And as soon as I graduated or finished my studies at the end of 2005, I started working for them.
Perfect.
And have been with them since.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. That's great. I guess you're one of those who started in the same company and still working for the same company.
Yes.
How many years that's been?
So I've now been with Jones and Wagner for over 18 years.
Perfect. Yeah.
So in December, I'll be having my 19th year anniversary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm part of the furniture at work.
No, that's great. That's great. And well, from where I know you and been following LinkedIn at least, how you grow into your career. That's really great. That's excellent.
It has been a great journey.
Absolutely.
I think it's a very nurturing company.
Mm-hmm.
We are very dedicated to developing our people, and I guess some testimony of just what the company does.
Yeah, sure, for sure. So let's talk about one of the topics that it's one of my favorite topics actually. We call it CQA, Construction Quality Assurance. As we know, geosynthetics products can be perfect, all the good things about the products, the material, but they arrive on site and we get contractors to install them.
Yeah.
And then it comes the quality assurance. How do you guys do it in South Africa? Because I think we do things in Australia slightly different than the US, than Southeast Asia, for example.
Yeah.
How do you do CQA in South Africa, and what's your opinion about it?
Yeah, so CQA is extremely important. Like you say, a good design built badly will not serve the function, will not serve design intent. And so in South Africa, how traditionally it has been done is that the design engineer gets involved in the CQA process, may appoint a resident engineer, assistant resident engineer, and then may, at a certain frequency, visit the site, him or herself, to check that the work is done thoroughly. What we're seeing that has been coming through in recent years in the licenses for construction, because once a design is approved, a license is given to commence construction, and that at times comes with some conditions. And now the authority is putting condition for third party, independent CQA officer to also be involved in the project, which is also great because the more the merrier, you could say. If you find the right partner who understands the design and is cooperative in terms of the work being done, and when I say cooperative, can work together with the engineer, see eye to eye and resolve issues quickly, it actually adds value to the project because you've just got another experienced party overseeing this construction just to give more value to the client. So it is something that is happening more, that the engineer is still involved as well as a third party. And ultimately, we all signed the construction completion report to say that the works were conducted according to the design, according to the approved CQA plan, as per specifications and drawings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of similar to what we do in Australia, yeah, I mean, they're always like that. The word that you mentioned, cooperative, that's a key word. I think how the team can really deliver the work together. That's a key thing anyway. And then after the design, the construction, quality assurance, we have a facility, say a pond or a landfill or similar, that's been constructed to the design intent, to the design standards, but then the operation starts. And then one of the things that I'm always keen is how this is going to go through its own life for the next 5, 10, 20, 15 years or more. And I just want to know your opinion about what do you think about how the operation would impact the lifetime operation of a facility, or what do you think? Why this is important?
Definitely. I think one of the biggest risks is during the commissioning phase, because you've built this facility and it's, you could say, I mean, you've done electrical leak location, etc., and you would say it's in perfect condition, or any defects that could have been picked up have been identified. But then you hand over to a contractor, and that initial placement of waste is quite high risk in terms of possible damage to the liner. I would say the engineer needs to stay involved until at least the first layer of pioneer waste is placed. I think that's extremely important to keep a close eye on that, especially coming up the edges and extending leachate drainage materials, just making sure that that process is carefully done. And then with monitoring of the facility over its lifetime, I mean, of course, as drainage systems, we are instrumenting more installed systems to check for temperature, to check for pressure within the drainage systems, to check for strain. And all of that is good because it will give us an early sign if there's something wrong. For example, if your leakage detection system is registering more than what you calculated as your leakage rate already, that's an indication of whether something has gone really wrong. And that would be before the other monitoring aspects of, let's say, downstream groundwater monitoring, because it takes a while for leachate to move through groundwater and eventually reach a monitoring borehole. And by that time, it may be too late. And now you need to put in other intervention. So I think monitoring over the lifetime of the facility is extremely important, especially with regards to drainage systems, to make sure that they're working, because that's where the risk is.
Exactly.
If you have a proper functioning leachate collection system, puts less pressure on the system, which will result in less leakage, etc.
Exactly. I think that's something that is kind of happening or started to happen in Australian mining industry, tailings dams specifically. Instrumentation is the key, and then educating the operators. This is something that I've seen happening in the mining industry, not so much in landfill, but like anything that you buy, it comes in perfect condition. It comes with a manual. So, I think that's also quite important.
Yeah, I think that touches on an important point as well. There was a time when you design and hand over, but it's important as well as the engineer, to be instrumental in the write-up of the operations manual. And like you say, with tailings facilities, I mean, that's been the norm for the longest time. But with landfill as well, developing and getting better to just hand it over with the do's and don'ts.
Yes, exactly.
To the owner and to the operator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Jabulile, the one thing that I've enjoyed really following you on LinkedIn, your professional development, and as you mentioned, you've been with the same company and you've sort of grown into your position. You have a high senior position in your company. Also, an advocate of knowledge share, educating, mentoring younger engineers.
Yeah.
This is something that I really enjoy watching people like you doing it. Tell us about that experience. How do you find it? Also, engagements with volunteer societies such as IGS.
Yeah.
How do you see how in your busy life? Because that's a question a lot of people actually ask, or a lot of people who are probably keen to do it, but they just cannot find the time.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about your experience with the professional development yourself and also mentoring younger engineers.
Yeah, so this industry is very humbling in that it's not mature, it's developing, and the more we use geosynthetics, the more we learn. And so it is important to keep abreast with latest research, latest findings, or else you're going to remain behind.
Yeah.
We make it a point that we attend conferences, attend short courses, webinars, especially those that are offered through the IGS or associated with the IGS, because we find great value and benefit, and also just in terms of being able to access the presenters later on to ask questions and get questions answered. Because sometimes on a platform like that, you may not be able to ask direct questions. But there's also a requirement for all professional engineers in our country to renew their registration every 5 years. And to do that, you need to give evidence of having done continual professional development, including attending conferences. But yeah, as a company, one of our values is sharing of knowledge and developing. And so I head up our training department, and we provide sufficient budget for all our engineers, all our scientists, all our staff, basically, to develop and grow in the aspects that they're working on. And I guess one of my influence or influences is Jonathan Shamrock. So Jonathan, the current chair of the Technical Committee on Barriers, used to be my boss when he was in South Africa. And in our department, he drove that culture. Sometimes we would meet in the evenings and watch webinars together, and that has just stayed with us. We just do that. We like doing it. It doesn't feel like a chore. It is something that excites us to hear more about what is happening and what others are doing.
That's right. Well, Jonathan, hi to you from here, and maybe you'll be my next guest on this podcast. But yeah, like what you said is quite interesting, because I myself go to University of Queensland in Brisbane just once a semester to give a lecture. Do it voluntarily, but it's exciting. Like every time the lecturer sends me the email, so what about this time? It's like I get excited still.
It is, and especially coming from, when I was in university now 20 plus years ago, we didn't have a dedicated course on geosynthetics or designing with geosynthetics. And it gives me great joy now in South Africa. All our universities, Pretoria, Johannesburg, UCT, there's constant collaboration with the IGSSA, so GEXA, in order to bring industry experts or industry players to give talks about manufacturing of geosynthetics, quality control and testing, designing with geosynthetics. Just last week, the UCT had an entire master's program where a few of us presented. So it's great to be able to, at university level, start instilling that knowledge, so that you come to the workplace at least a little bit prepared.
Exactly. Perfect. So, my last question, Jabulile, again, a tradition of my podcast, I ask my guests about their highlight of your career. Um, and then might go into your personal life, your personal experiences, or again, with your work experience. What is your highlight, and why do you think that is your highlight?
Yeah. So I've had many. Uh, yeah. I guess one highlight was also doing my first electrical leak location
Oh, yeah.
survey with Ian Piggs
Oh, yes.
himself. We had a problematic pollution control dam that we were trying to commission, and it would get to a certain level and leak. And yeah, Ian came out and we spent Christmas Eve on this one particular site.
Yeah.
But the highlight for me of my career would be this particular site as well, because when I was a third year student, one of my first tasks as a vocation work student was to design an entrance ramp
Okay.
for a particular cell. And I have, from that day on, worked on the site and developed a further five cells, as well as now the further development of that site, because that footprint has been full. And it's just been such a joy for me, or a privilege to just be on the one side and just see how the facility grows and develops, and how it behaves in
Yeah.
terms of monitoring that we're speaking about. Um, and how the capping system then starts influencing the monitoring and the drainage. It's just to be and be able to work on one side for 20 years is actually quite a privilege,
Yeah.
especially in the age where there's quite a lot of turnaround in terms of consulting engineers. Some companies will say you cannot have the same consultant working for more than 3 years. You need
Yes.
to rotate. But to have a loyal client like that we have a great relationship with, and to have a job at the company that has lasted that long is quite a career highlight.
Exactly. Again, I had a quite similar experience in the mining industry with tailings and the introduction of EOR,
Yes.
engineer of record,
Yes.
which is not the case for landfills.
No,
But
yeah.
I totally agree with you. I mean, if you have a chance, especially if you're performing, because sometimes, I agree, clients get a consultant that they think they're not performing, they have to choose change. But if you have a consultant that just keep them involved, make them an engineer of record, so they
Yeah.
know everything and as it goes into your facility.
Yeah, we need to speak about tailings at some point.
Yeah,
So I am EOR for one facility,
yeah.
but that's another topic of
Another
discussion that is
podcast.
really growing with these GISTM standards.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of skill required in terms
Absolutely.
of the
Yeah.
requirements there. But yeah,
Yeah.
geosynthetics and mining.
Exactly.
Next
Exactly.
podcast.
Next one, for sure, for sure. Just to finish, again, going back to some of your personal hobbies. I know you kind of, you're a busy parent, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're finding time to do your professional work, also mentoring, also engagement with the societies as you do. And how do you manage all of those things? And then how do you find what are your hobbies?
Yeah, so I've got two boys
Yeah.
that keep me extremely busy. So most of my Saturdays are spent on either a soccer field, basketball court, rugby field, or playing taxi mom between all the different parties.
Yeah.
But yeah, my kids give me great joy, and it's I guess they give me purpose
Yeah.
to do better in life and to do better in my job as well. And then I've got a lot of friends that I like to keep in touch and interact
Yeah.
with. I think that connection and with being with other people and sharing their life experiences makes you see that some of the hardship you go through is not unique to you, and it just gives you a new perspective on life.
Exactly.
And other than that, I enjoy just relaxing.
Yeah.
I try to work out from time to time. I've got a bicycle that I try
Good.
to ride at times. It's a bit lonely currently.
Yes.
But yeah, just trying to keep a healthy body and fit mind. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, when you enjoy your work, then it's not work anymore, or it's, I don't know how to call it. It's just, again, it's like a holiday when you're working. It's like work when you're holiday. So it's also like a combination anyway.
It is. I guess the thing is there will be difficult times. There will be difficult projects and clients. But ultimately, when a job is completed, it's just so great for everyone.
Great. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jabulile, for your time and for this episode of podcast. I'm pretty sure our audience also enjoyed conversation. Thanks for your time, all of the audience hearing or watching us on YouTube. And we catch up in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Siamak.
Thanks a lot.